Hello, in this video we are going to see the aggregate demand curve, which is this curve, and quickly we saw in the previous videos that we found this intersection, and then with this intersection we got this graph, this graph, this graph, this one, and what we are going to see now is this graph. And after this video we will be able to modify this M in the money market. This is monetary policy, and then we are going to modify government expenditure, taxes, transferences in the goods and services market, and this is fiscal policy. And we are going to use this graph, especially this one, to analyze the effectiveness of these policies. So I am not going to try to convince you that these policies are good or bad. Rather, I will show you in which situation they might be good or bad. But not so fast. In this video we are going to see only this curve. So let's get started. In previous videos we derived this graph and we found this intersection using the goods and services market and the money market, and then we plug in these values in this expression and we got the income in equilibrium. But remember what we pointed out in the last video, that among all of this value, it's very important to point out that we are using this initial value 2 for the price level, so this P is constant. So using all of these values included P equal 2, we get income in equilibrium, which is this 400 here. In order to find interest rate in equilibrium, we can do two things. One is to use this number in the IS equation, which is longer, or we can use this 400 in the LM equation, which is shorter. So this is the one that I'm going to use. I use income in equilibrium 400, and then making the math for this equal to 400, I get interest rate in equilibrium, which is 5. As this is the LM curve, then you can see in the money market that you use this 600 for M, 2 for P, 1 for K, and 20 for H, and then you plug in this value and you get this number 5. Now if I want to find out this curve, especially the intercept 200, then I go to the goods and services market and I use this interest rate in equilibrium, which is 5, and then I do the math and I find that the intercept is 200 and the slope is 0.5. We have done that in previous videos, and I find this 200, which is this 200 here. So what we are going to do in this video is to see this curve, which is the aggregate demand curve. So let's be focused on the aggregate demand curve now. First thing, here in the horizontal axis, in the horizontal axis I have income. In the vertical axis I have P, level price. So if we want to find this value here, the only thing that I have to do is to use the information that P has the value 2, and then I will find that income has the value 400. So if I use this information that P is 2, then I use this value P2 here, and then I found income that is going to be 400. We did exactly this to find this 400, but this 400 is exactly the same as this 400, so we can use exactly the same expression to find this y in equilibrium, which is 400, and this 400 here. So if P is 2, then income is 400, and then we get this point. But we are actually interested in finding not only one point, we want the whole curve for aggregate demand. So if we want to have the whole curve, then we have to drop the assumption that P is constant, and then if we vary P, then Y will vary, and we will get the whole curve. So what we have to do is to drop the assumption that P is 2, so we drop the assumption that this P is constant, and if we assume that P varies, then this is going to vary too. So we have a variable income. So we are not going to have only one point. We assume that P varies, and therefore if P varies, then Y is going to vary as well. So we will have a variable Y that depends on P, and therefore we found the curve that we wanted to find. So conclusion, if we want to find the aggregate demand curve, the only thing that we have to do is to use exactly the same expression that we use to find this intersection, but not with fixed value for P, but with variable P. So the only thing that we have to do is to plug in all of these values in the good and in the money market here, except this value. So we don't include that P is 2, we leave P free, and then we will get Y free. So the only variables that we have here is Y and P, and then we get this curve. And that's it. We found the expression for the aggregate demand curve. Okay, one more thing. Why the shape of this aggregate demand curve is like this? Well, I may make another video perhaps to show it more formally, but just to give you a very intuitive idea, in this term here everything is constant. Some values you take it from the goods and services market, and age, etc., you take it from the money market, but all of these are constant. Now the same thing happens here. You take B from here, constant, and you take M from here, 600, constant, and this term is constant too. You can check that all of these terms are here in the panels. So the only variables are Y and P, the rest is constant. So the shape of this is similar to the shape of Y equal 1 divided by P. We can see here this divided by P, and this is quite familiar to you, because if P takes a small value, let's say here, then Y takes a big value, and if P takes a big value, then Y takes a small value. Maybe you are used to use it this way, which mathematically is the same. You have P in the vertical axis, and then you have Y in the horizontal axis, is exactly the same. When one gets small, the other one gets big, and vice versa. And that's it. This concludes this video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.